Welcome to Monza, the opening round of the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo, and a record entry for this first round of 2015. Because we have two classes, the new Lamborghini Huracan LP622 Super Trofeo model and the familiar Lamborghini Gallardo on track as well. 31 cars is the entry across those two classes. Lots of new teams, lots of new drivers, but the traditional format of some drivers being partnered by a quicker co-driver, others doing the race on their own, and it all adds up to what should be a very good race indeed. The cars are about to be released round onto the grid. You can see them all lined up in the pit lane, ready to go, and we look forward to what promises to be a superb start to the championship season. Perhaps more importantly than ever, results in this championship matter, because for 2015 there is an all-pro lineup in a Lamborghini, a factory-run car, in the Blancpain Endurance Series. And the three drivers have all come out of this championship. Go back a few years and it was regarded really as a nice place for wealthy gentlemen to go racing, have a nice social side, race a nice car, go back home again. Now, undeniably, it has proved that it is a stepping stone to a factory GT drive, and that is very important indeed, and that's why more and more drivers are coming into the series. The Pro class, reintroduced last year, is very much for the young career racing drivers. Having the likes of a Peter Cox or a Fabio Babini, who have raced for so many years and are undeniably good drivers, was one thing, but they have been outlawed, so they're young professional drivers. They are drivers with a good single-seater pedigree or other one-make GT class pedigree who are going up and up and up and want those factory drives, and that's what the Pro Cup is now aimed at. And so what we have is this excellent entry, and we're looking forward to the first race of the weekend. It's going to be 50 minutes, pit stop window between 20 and 30 minutes. 1 minute and 24 seconds is the pit stop, rest for 1 minute, 24 seconds the drive time in and out. So if you're less than 1 minute and 24, you're in hot water with the stewards. It's not just the race cars that make you drool, it's the course cars as well. The leading car and the safety car there on the grid, ready to lead the field around as soon as the cars are released from the pit lane. The championship, which is welcoming a number of new teams this year, has some of the traditional ones like Blancpain Motorsport or Banaldi Motorsport, the GRT Grassa racing team, also operating cars in the Blancpain Endurance Series. But one of the most significant teams on the grid, you have to say, is Conrad Motorsport. Franz Conrad's team, which for so many years has been associated with Porsche racing, still is indeed in the Super Cup and Carrera Cup Deutschland. But to have a team like that adding Lamborghini to its program in addition to the Carrera Cups, very impressive indeed, and it's another boost for the championship. And look down the entry, lots of drivers this year moving from the likes of GP3 or Formula 3 championships into Lamborghini racing as an opportunity to prove themselves and try and promote their careers. So that's the scene looking down onto the grid. Pit lane will be open very shortly for the cars to be released round onto the grid itself. So down the pit lane we go. You can see the new Huracan. There are, as I said earlier, one or two of the Gallardos there as well. But number 3 is the the Bonaldi car, I should say, of Matteo Bobbi, former FIA GT champion. Jay Palmer from British GT sharing with him. Look further back, 78 there in the Artline Team Georgia colours of Shota Abkazava. Who else do we have? Another of the very distinctive bright green cars to be run by Sportec Motorsport for Jürgen Krebs out of the Swiss Porsche Championship, number 12. That's one of the Conrad cars with Franz Conrad's traditional turquoise and white livery. That's Amir Krenzia, the Romanian driver. New to motor racing as well as to Lamborghini. 31 is for the Autocarrozzeria Imperiali team, Simone Pellegrinelli, who switched from motorbikes into car racing last year and was a regular winner of the AM class, and Pellegrinelli in fact humbled people with regularity last year. He moves up to Pro-Am this year. So the cars at the end of the pit lane ready to be released, and the grid is formed. The teams down the pit road with all the tyre trolleys, should they need to change tyres during the course of the race, which we hope they won't have to worry about. The grid, incidentally, is formed with the best time that was done in Q1. Race 2 grid based on the best time done in the second part of qualifying, unlike last year when it was one qualifying and then a race result. But the quirk, as the cars head out onto the track, is that it does not have to be the driver that set the time to start the race. So it could be that very fast co-driver sets pole position, not so quick amateur co-driver starts the race, and therefore we're set for quite a lot of shuffling, I think, once the race gets underway. The car on pole position, however, doesn't actually matter. It doesn't affect that because the former GP3 racer and Formula Renault racer Patrick Cuéllar is going to start on his own, so he'll be on pole position, but he's a soloist. Number 16, lining up at the front of the grid, is the Vincenzo Sospiri racing car of Michimi Shinya and Kai Francesco Cozzolino, and that is a car that is going to be started by Cozzolino. Then you get third on the grid to the first of the Raton racing cars, another Italian team for Edoardo Liberati and Patrick Niederhauser, and Patrick Niederhauser is going to start there. And then fourth on the grid, number 5, definitely one to watch from the Antonelli Motorsport team, Daniel Zampieri and Roman Mavlanov, who last year were victorious in the International GT Open Championship. It is going to be Daniel Zampieri who will start. There is car number 9, Patrick Niederhauser, turning his way through for Raton Racing. You can't miss that car in its gold livery. Niederhauser and Liberati, two I would suspect that could be potential winners here. Edoardo Liberati, who's driven for BMW Italy in GT racing. He's on Carrera Cup as well, so he's got lots of experience. Fifth on the grid is Alberto Di Folco, also for Raton Racing. We know that from years past he is quick as well. Then you have Florian Spengler, another regular GT racer in 33. And seventh on the grid is where you find Sergio Campana and Fabrizio Crestani, both from GP2 most recently, and both two competitive drivers as well. So it's going to be a fascinating race, this. I know I say it every season when you get to Lamborghini Super Trofeo, but with lots of different drivers coming in with different backgrounds, well worth keeping an eye to this race, because nobody really as yet has been able to prove their true form. And where you have the shared cars, you're a little bit dependent on the pace of the second driver as well. Drivers making their way through the pit lane, getting in an extra warming up lap or two. Just seen Florian Spengler go through in 33. The rest of the cars filing their way out of the second chicane up towards the grid. And the cars continue, as is the tradition, to make this fabulous noise. Anders Josefsson there in one of the existing Gallardos heads up towards the start line. He is a soloist, so he will go on his own in this. So the grid starting to take shape, and as soon as the countdown is completed, then we should be good to go. So the field slots just about into position. It's going to be a rolling start, as is the tradition for the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo. And they're looking at the back of the grid. The Segway worked its way through. Yes. Perfect opportunity to drool over the lines of the new car, doesn't it? 78 there, slotting into place, which is the Artline Team Georgia car of Shota Abkazava. Abkazava is a very experienced driver. He owns circuits, he's run race teams, races himself regularly in a variety of categories. 26, the car of Sergio Campana, the Bell, an Italian, up to the grid. And he will start at 7th. And There you can see car number 2, which is for Mikko Eskilinen and Kelvin Snooks. It's going to be Kelvin Snooks that will start that. Another driver moving from single-seater racing. Number 9 to the grid. And that is going to be Patrick Niederhauser to start, as we've already touched on. In the racing equivalent of a gold watch, I suppose that, in a Blancpain sponsored series. Perfect fit, this championship, to go with the Blancpain Endurance Series. And pole position, 32. Patrick Kujala on the inside of the grid. There's number 5 heading to the line, which is for Daniel Zampieri, and he was going to start, and Roman Mavlanov. Zampieri we've seen successfully racing in the past in the Blancpain Endurance Series. He was part of the Kessel Racing Ferrari onslaught a few years ago. 90 slots into position, which is Alberto Di Falco. Still think he could be a dark horse here, Di Falco, because he's driving on his own, doesn't have to worry about the pace of a co-driver, and is a quick driver. So he's one to watch, I suspect. Tremendous sight these cars make, and always the first lap is a real spectacle, not just because of how they look, but because of how they sound as well. So the grid just about formed, and then we have the countdown. There's 1 or 2 more gaps to fill as cars work their way through from the back, and then they're going to be released onto the warming up lap. Now let's head down to the grid if we can, and let us try and catch up with Michi Mishinya, who drives for the Vincenzo Sospiri team. He is with OJ Borg.
He's just putting his racer on right now as he jumps into it on a very hot day down here on the Monza racetrack. Sean, it is the first race in the Huracan. How excited are you?
Very excited. It's the first race for the whole team, first GT race for me and my teammate as well. But I think we've done a really good job putting the car on second for today's race. And I think we'll both be able to bring it home for a good finish, hopefully in the front.
So you're talking about a win today?
Of course.
And talk me through what it's like driving this new Huracan.
It's great, you know, it's just got a ton of power. Normally when you go into 6th gear into a car, you kind of hit like a stopping point. This thing, it just keeps going. It's great, and we're running faster times than the GT3 cars. Feels great.
So I take it this is the right racetrack for this car?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you've got all the history here from Formula 1 and all that kind of stuff, so I think, yeah, it's a really good track, a lot of long straights. It really shows the performance of this car.
Well, good luck for the race.
Thank you, you too.
It's also impressive, isn't it, to have this great variety of nationalities coming into the championship this year. Michi Mishinya then is a quick driver for the Vincenzo Sospiri team, and will be a man to watch, I suspect, over 50 minutes of racing here. So the grid is just about formed. As I say, we'll have the countdown, the cars will be released then onto this warming up lap. There is Daniel Zampieri, potential winner undoubtedly, with Roman Mavlanov as his co-driver. They were at the successful partnership in last year's International GT Open Championship. Mavlanov has also done a bit of Blancpain Endurance Series racing and Ferrari Challenge racing in his time, so he knows the art of long-distance racing. Another car, even though it starts a long way back on the grid, is going to be number 3 with Matteo Bobbi to get on board, because he, too, is a very fast driver. He has some of the mainstays of the championship back for another year, like Laurent Geny and Cedric Lima. Gerhard Trevaza is another man that's done a lot of Lamborghini racing over his years, partnered by Manuel Flaminio for Leipzig Motorsport. And I think he too is going to be one to watch, particularly in his stint. There is Sergio Campana's car. At the very back of the grid is Günther Blieninger, but he will be partnered by Milos Pavlovic in the Grasser Racing Team car, and so that certainly is going to be a car that will storm its way up the order once you've had the driver change. So Milos Pavlovic did drive in the qualifying session, but whether he's going to get behind the wheel, I understand, is perhaps less clear because he's here to largely do driver coaching. There's one gap on the grid as well there. Now, does that suggest a man with a problem, or has somebody missed? Yes, they missed the pit lane closing time. So it is whoever should be 10th on the grid, and that is 87, which is the Harold Schlegelmilch started car. And that's one of the perils of trying to get as many warming up laps in as you can. If you miss the pit lane closing time, then you get trapped there. So Schlegelmilch will have to start from the pit lane. So we have the grid lined up and the field ready for 50 minutes of racing with what promises to be a very busy race ahead. Let's go down to the grid once more. Patrick Kujala, who starts on pole position, is down on the grid, and ready to have a word with him is OJ Borg.
I'm indeed down here with the man on pole, Patrick. A fantastic performance to get onto pole.
Yes.
Talk me through your qualifying performance.
Just try to find a clear lap, and that's it.
And you're the soloist. How tough a race is this to do this on your own?
I've been always racing on my own, so I'm used to it.
Well, there you go. It's a man of few words. They're clearing the grid, so we'll hand back up to you, Adad.
Thanks, OJ. Yeah, Patrick Kujala has done all of his single-seater racing, as he makes the point, on his own. No two-driver racing experience, so he will remain as a soloist. He drives for the Bonaldi Motorsport team. There's number 10 on the grid, the Adrian Amstutz car. Adrian, part of the Dubai 24-hour winning team last year for Franz Conrad's eponymous team. So 50 minutes of racing to get underway. As I say, there's that one in the pit lane, which is Harold Schlegelmilch, who will share in 87 with Mikhail Stepanov. There's Calvin Snurks, he's one to watch, with Mikko Eskilinen, who's a quick am. Calvin Snurks, a quick pro. That was the car that Dimitri Engelbert, or sorry, the drive that Dimitri Engelbert had last year with Mikko Eskilinen. New car, now that the Huracan has come on stream for this season. Car 31, is that? Yes, 31, with the door flapping. Simone Pellegrinelli for Imperiali Racing. Stepping up from am to pro-am for this year. And again, it's going to be a man to watch. So are we nearly ready to get the cars released? Before they are released, let's have one last trip up the grid. Patrick Kujala then is on the left. To his right is going to be Kai Francesco Cozzolino. Then on the second row of the grid, you've got on the left as you look, Patrick Niederhauser. To the right is Daniel Zampieri. Go back one further row, two soloists here. Alberto Di Folco on the left, and it is Florian Spengler on the right. Onto the fourth row of the grid, the white car with the grey stripes across its nose there, Sergio Campana, and alongside him is Gerhard Verraza. Go back another row, and you have number 96, which is Raffaele Giannoni, and a gap where Harold Schlegelmilch should have been. He'll start from the pit lane. Calvin Snurks in the white and red car lines up alongside Adrian Amstutz for Conrad. The next row, Ollie Ray, the Australian, in the white and red car there, ex-British Formula Ford racer, alongside Simone Pellegrinelli. Then it is Mark Ineichen, whose father Rolf, who's a very quick Porsche racer for Franz Conrad's team. Lorenzo Spinelli alongside. Cedric Lima comes next, and to his right is Giacomo Bari. Then it is Karina Lima lining up alongside the bright green car there of Shota Abkazava. On to the 11th row, Jay Palmer is on the left, and Davide Duranti lining up alongside him. Then 14 is Siegfried Vananema, and Laurent Geny, Cedric Lima's car, next up ahead of Anders Josefsson. And then in number 12, it is Amir Klenzia. The last couple of cars on the grid, you have in 13, Jürgen Krebs lining up alongside Mikhail Spidoranov. Tim Richards at the very back as the cars now are released. So the formation lap in readiness for 50 minutes of this opening round of the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo. The cars turning their way through that first chicane, and the 50 minutes begins once the lights go green, once everybody has made their way up towards the end of this lap, and then we are ready for what has promised to be a fascinating start to the championship season. Let's have a quick look at how the grid lines up for round one of the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo here at Monza. Patrick Koyala is on pole position, and lining up with him at the front of the grid is Cozzolino. The second row, Niederhauser and Zampieri, potential winners both. Then you have Alberto Di Falco and Florian Spengler. The fourth row of the grid has Sergio Campana alongside Gerhard Tverraza, and then the fifth row on the inside is the car of soloist Raffaele Giannoni, and Harold Schlegelmilch is going to start from the pit lane ahead of Calvin Snooks and Adrian Amstutz on row 6. Then Ollie Ray, Simone Pellegrinelli. He completes row 7 ahead of Marky Naiken, and then Lorenzo Spinelli on the outside of row 8. Then it's 63, which is due to be started by Cedric Lima, and after him you find Giacomo Barri ahead of Karina Lima and Shota Abkazava. Jay Palmer and Davide Doranti start in their respective cars to complete the 11th row of the grid. Then we have number 14, which is going to be in the hands of Siegfried Van Ema, lining up alongside Anders Josefsson. Then it is Montes ahead of Krenzia, Krebs ahead of Spidoranov, Richards, and then Günther Blieninger to round out the grid. So through the Variante Ascari they come, and this is a very spectacular grid. The glamour in the pit lane is part of the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo, and the championship has always cultivated this very relaxed atmosphere. You have hard racing and lots of track time, but then there's this excellent hospitality that's afforded to the drivers. It's a good social bunch, and they enjoy themselves off track as much as on. The opening round of the championship is set to get underway. Find a car with drivers of comparable pace, and it is going to be a fair bet for success, that is for sure. They get themselves now into the 2x2 Noah's Ark formation on the run down towards the right-hander of Parabolica. And then the pit lane, Stefan Winkelmann, the boss of Lamborghini, chatting to the teams, and all of them looking forward to what's going to be a very good race indeed, that is for sure. And there is the frustrated Harold Schlegelmilch, who, but for one more warming up lap, would have been able to get himself onto the grid. Jürgen Krebs also starting for the pit lane, so we've got a couple of cars down there that need to join in. One gap on, or two gaps rather, on the grid now. So the field turning its way down through the Parabolica, and we should be ready to go racing any moment now. There's car 8, which is one of the new Huracans up near the pointy end of the grid of Günther Blieninger. Milos Pavlovic hopefully will take over that car. Right, out of the Parabolica they come. Round one of the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo here at Monza is about to get underway. You're riding on board with number 5, Daniel Zampieri, and as they make their way up towards the timing line, the Raging Bulls are about to be released. Bull running is about to start at Monza. The lights on the gantry are red. When the lights change, the race will be on. Now the cars blast away. Who makes the best start? Well, it's a good getaway by Koyala from pole position. Challenge being made there as Zampieri has to cut across and try to defend, and also do overtaking on the outside line down towards the chicane for the first time. They're virtually 3 wide for second place, but Zampieri breaks as late as he dares. He's going for the race lead. He's going to run out of road. He does. He just wriggles through in time. Good recovery, but a great bit of driving. Zampieri started off having to defend. He ends up with some very good late braking, nipping around the outside up into second spot. Great move pulled that was. The race leader then is Patrick Koyala. He's trying to get away from the rest of them as they file their way through the Rettifilio for the first time. In second spot, going after him, is Daniel Zampieri, and the rest of the field now file their way through that second chicane. Patrick Niederhauser is on a bit of a mission as well. 1 or 2 almost tripping over themselves as the cars now thread their way out of that second chicane on towards the first of the Lesmos, and a bit of contact in fact there, because up on the inside Ollie Ray tries to make a move, and it very nearly all unravelled against him as he tried to get past Alberto Di Falco. Somebody else running wide in the background. You've also got Calvin Snooks, I think, in that mid-pack as well. So from the pulpit, oh, big drama in the background, one in the wall, one off in avoidance. That's going to be a safety car, because look at that, there is a shattered car. Wheels ripped off, bodywork ripped off. and the yellow flags wave, but I'm convinced that's going to be a safety car, because yes, the safety car is being deployed straight away. Safety car on track, and that, I think, was lots of people going for the same part of track and possibly inexperience in the cars. It's Simone Pellegrinelli in 31 who's had the accident. Well, Pellegrinelli in his second year of Lamborghini racing was a real star last year, but I'm afraid he's come a cropper big time early in the day. He's okay, look, gets out of the car, but basically pinballed, I think, from one barrier to another. A lot of damage done, and so Simone Pellegrinelli is off the road. Safety car deployed. The race suspended whilst the field makes its way round from the Parabolica up over the line. It does give chance to catch up on the race order, but no argument about the fact that Patrick Kujala was up front, and the safety car will scoop up everybody. The flatbed there deployed to go and retrieve the battered car. Yellow flags wave to indicate safety car on track, the white flags to show there's a very slow moving vehicle. So at the end of the lap, Patrick Kujala leads from Daniel Zampieri. In third place, Florian Spengler, up from 6th to 3rd. 4th was Kai Francesco Cozzolino. 5th, Gerhard Travasa. In 6th place, Patrick Niederhauser. 7th was Sergio Campana. In 8th place, Raffaele Giannoni. 9th place, Alberto Di Folco. And 10th, Kelvin Snooks. That was how they ran over the line. And there you can see the shattered car of Simone Pellegrinelli. It's not just moving the car, it's also getting the bits of bodywork off the road that's going to exercise the race officials as well. So the field turning its way up towards the second chicane. Others that suffered in the midst of all of that and have headed for the pit lane. 87, which is the Harold Schlegelmilch car. Not sure that ever actually got going. And 99 also, Mikhail Spidoronov is in the pit lane. So we are behind the safety car. It is because of Simone Pellegrinelli's accident at turn 7, coming out of the second Lesmo, speed building, and all you have to do is run wide and hook a curb, and then you are in big strife. So that was, I'm afraid to say, what did for him. So the race order, Patrick Kujala making his Lamborghini debut leads the way from Daniel Zampieri, from Florian Spengler, and then in 4th place is Kai Francesco Cozzolino for Vincenzo Sospiri's team. Let's have another look. Pellegrinelli runs wide, look, he gets over the dirt, and as he gets back onto the road, car ahead of him, he tried to avoid and hits the barrier with big force. Spins across the road. Others have to scatter around him in avoidance, but yes, the car ahead had run wide, he ran wide, then had to try and jink a way around it. Here it is from another angle, look, and Pellegrinelli off the road. Trying to see, it might have been Kelvin Snurk's car that was the one directly ahead that he tried to avoid. It's got that livery to it, and just look how close some of the others were to ploughing into the back of him. So let's hear Lamborghini's take on life in the championship, because Stefan Winkelmann, the CEO of Lamborghini, has time to pause and look at his glorious Huracan and talk to OJ Borg.
Stefan, we're here in Monza, we're in Italy. The Lamborghinis, what a great day to start off this first round of the Super Trofeo season.
Yes, it's the 7th year we are doing it. I think it's a great success. We have 30 cars on the grid. Almost all of them are the new Huracans. And this is valid also for our other regions, for the Americas and for Asia. So it's a good start. The weather is perfect. It seems to be summer. And on top of that, tomorrow we also have the GT3 race, the first official one.
Were you surprised at all at how well the Huracan's gone here?
I have to admit, yes. Because last year we set ourselves a target. We presented the car in August last year in Pebble Beach in the US. And from then on, it was a real quick win situation for the car. The car looks good, it's very fast. And so I think that it deserves it, but it was a surprise for us, yes.
There's lots of cars here at this Blancpain weekend, more than just the Lamborghini. Everybody wants to see the Lamborghini though, don't they?
Yes, I think so, because our cars, aesthetically, they already look much faster than the others. And then with the Super Trofeo, I think we made a good build-up in terms of awareness and image, not only for the brand, but also for our capability and quality in racing, and so this is a good start for the GT3.
We have a lot of Italian viewers watching right now, watching in Italy. Anything you'd like to say to them in Italian?
Beh ragazzi, questa è la prima gara, siamo molto soddisfatti di essere qui oggi, ci sono 30 macchine in griglia e le Huracan sono stupende.
I'll have to trust that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, OJ. Good to hear from Stefan Winkelmann then, and echoing what he says about how well the Huracan has gone. It was presented last August, and people straight away were hit by the wow factor of it. But to launch a new race car into a championship where there's an existing model takes some commitment from the teams to effectively dispense with the existing machinery, the Gallardo, and to have a record grid for this first round of the championship with the new car coming in is very, very impressive indeed. It does illustrate, as I keep going on about, how far this championship has moved on over the last 3 or 4 years. It's become a very, very competitive one-make championship. There's, of course, the Porsche Super Cup that supports Grand Prix, but the Lamborghini Super Trofeo is not far off, I would say, now as being the ultimate one-make category. And certainly in terms of the amount of track time you get far more. It teaches you about endurance racing and pit stops, and you can split costs with a co-driver if you so desire. Lots of good teams running this, so all the ingredients are there for a very good championship, and we have this opening round irritatingly interrupted by the safety car because of that accident on the first lap. But one of the downsides, I suppose, to a very full grid. The race officials hard at work, toiling away to clear the incident zone so that we can go back racing very, very swiftly. As soon as that is done, then the indication can be given that the marshals can remove the flags, and we can go back to full race conditions. The cars there turning their way round up towards where the incident zone was. 13 is the Sportec Motorsport car of Jürgen Krebs. That was a pit lane starter, and Krebs trying to make progress therefore, and succeeding, I think, in so doing from the rear of the grid, helped a little bit by people having dramas ahead of him. But 27th he will run. Another car that never got to the start by the look of it was the shared entry of Laurent Yenny and Cyril Lima, mainstays of the championship, but that I don't think ever got to the grid. So the yellow flags wave, through the incident zone we go. How are we doing? It looks as though that's all pretty much clear. So it could be that the safety car comes in this time. The tyre marks where Pellegrinelli went off. But I would say that is clear. So we should be able to go back racing this time around. The drivers have had a look at the circuit. The race officials can see all the pictures. They can talk to the observer in the safety car. And if everybody is happy, then we can go back racing. And what this does, given that you have only another 10 minutes before the pit window opens, it reduces the benefit of putting out your quick driver first. In most cases, in fairness, it is the slower driver that does the first stint. You need your gun at the end. But if you have taken the gamble, Adrian Zaug's team always used to do this with him and Federico Danora, if you have made the gamble of putting the quick driver in first, then straight away it's proved to be the wrong choice, because you just do not have enough racing time to capitalise on that. So the cars then work their way out of the chicane. They're ready to go racing pretty much, and we are, having had 10 minutes now, getting ever closer to that pit window that opens between 20 and 30. Everybody must pit, whether they're doing the race as a shared entry or as a driver, as a soloist. Yellow flags and the safety car boards still are on the gantry straight opposite me. Looking to see somebody pick up a green flag. Haven't got that yet. So are they going to do one more lap? I'll be surprised. Just as long as the course vehicles are off the circuit and back to a place of safety, then we should be good. So the cars now turn their way down through the Parabolica. And in the far distance I can see that the car of Pellegrinelli is being retrieved, it's being brought back. But do we need one more lap? I think they're going to be given another lap. Yes, they are. So the safety car boards are still there and the flags still wave. So they're going to be released with very, very few minutes remaining before the pit window opens. So there's going to be this mad dive in to get the slower drivers out. Daniel Zampieri is probably one that's being wasted here by starting, because Zampieri is quicker than Mavlanov, his co-driver, but Zampieri is not going to have enough racing time in which he can really capitalise on that. So one more lap behind the safety car, at least one more lap behind the safety car, and then we can go racing. Looking to see where the best placed of the Gallardos is to be found. It is Davide Duranti sharing with Juan Carlos Carati, and they are 15th ahead of Anders Josefsson and then Carina Lima, which had 4 in qualifying, only 3 in the race with the non-start of Jenny and Lima. Safety car is in this time, that's been confirmed. So the safety car will peel in at the end of this lap, and then we can go back to racing once more. Cars working their way through the Parabolica very shortly, and then we can go to racing. Before we do go back to racing, let's hear from Maurizio Reggiani, because he is behind the development of the race-bred Lamborghini Huracan. Before we go racing, he's got time to talk to OJ Borg.
Fabrizio, you developed a lot of the technical parts of the Huracan. It is a fabulous car, isn't it?
Yes, sure. It's a fabulous car, the street car, but also the race car, Super Trofeo plus GT3. We have started the development of all the 3 cars together, means we have really put as much as possible synergy between street, Super Trofeo and the GT3.
Have you been surprised at all at the times those cars are setting around Monza this weekend?
I think what surprises really how fast it is compared to the old Gallardo, and also how easy it is to manage. We have the feedback from our driver that is really embarrassing, means everybody was really to improve the performance. Also, let me say, amateur driver in a way that is difficult to justify, is not mainly only due to the easiness of the car.
Fabulous, thank you.
Grazie.
I think everybody's agreed the Huracan is a great looking car and it's a great race car. Trouble is, there's one that's a bit battered now, and whether Pellegrinelli can get the car repaired for tomorrow's race is a moot point. But we have 36.5 minutes still to run. The safety car will be in at the end of this lap. We're going to go back to racing, therefore, very, very shortly. And this opening round of the championship set to get underway. Spiritual home, of course, of Lamborghini Racing, Monza, and where better to launch a brand new race car in a race championship. So the driver's just trying to squirt a bit of warmth into the tyres, and then up towards the timing line they will come. The safety car is going to peel in this time, and then we should be ready to go racing once more. It's going to be Patrick Koyala, remember, who leads the way when the field makes its way up towards the restart of the race. This will be the end of lap 4, so we'll hit green flags for lap 5, and Koyala from Zampieri, from Florian Spengler, from Cosolino, Trearaza and Patrick Niederhauser. That is going to be the order. So now you can see more energetic weaving to try and put the temperature into the tyres as the cars go from the left to the right to the left to the right, and the safety car will quicken its pace. It will bail for the pit lane this time. The onboard with Daniel Zampieri, I suspect, is going to show us that he'll get right onto the tail of Patrick Koyala once we go racing once more. And we do go racing now. Koyala stacked them up a little bit. Now he accelerates away. Over the timing line they go. We're back racing with the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo. The gap between the top 2.9 of a second as they cross the line. Koyala from Zampieri. Then it's Spengler, Cosolino, Trearaza. Niederhauser comes next ahead of Giannone. Then Di Folco and Snooks rounds out the top 10 as they head down towards the chicane. Now Daniel Zampieri needs to stay out until the very end of the window. From Patrick Koyala's point of view, it doesn't really matter because Koyala can come in pretty much when he wants. He doesn't have to hand over to anybody. His car can run at the same pace race long. So we go racing on this lap 5. There's the field pouring its way down through the chicane. But up to the second chicane already comes the race leader. And Daniel Zampieri in the first sector takes a 10th out of the lead. And Koyala straight on there goes the car of Niederhauser out of 6th place. Patrick Niederhauser runs off the road and loses track position as a result. He gets back on, but he's going to lose out to his teammate, I think, because up alongside him and past him will go Di Folco, another of the Raton Racing cars. So Patrick Niederhauser makes a mistake, falls down the order as through the Lesmo curves they come. Green flags fly. Florian Spengler there in 3rd place is falling away a little bit now because very definitely Daniel Zampieri is hunting down the race leader. Down they come to the Variante Ascari. Into the left, the right, the left, and then the run down towards the Parabolica. Now is Zampieri close enough to make a move? He's taken half a second out in the middle sector alone, so Zampieri is a man on a mission. He knows more about racing GT cars than does Patrick Koyala, and so as they turn their way now down through the Parabolica, we have the top two getting closer and closer and closer to one another with 33 minutes of the race to go. But can Zampieri make a move? Well, he's not near enough yet. They come then down towards the chicane. There is a challenge being made up on the inside by Alberto Di Folco, who's trying to urge his way up alongside. You can see number 96 in the hands of Raffaele Giannoni, and side by side they run with Di Folco on the inside line. The Raton racing car has the inside down to the first chicane, but can he find a way through here? Yes, he can. Alberto Di Folco breaks late, and he's got his teammate Patrick Niederhauser. Look, one car but one further back there, coming into shot now. Niederhauser trying to recover after his trip over the escape road. Race leader Patrick Koyala then 6/10 up on Daniel Zampieri at the start of this lap, but Zampieri's not been able to stay close enough. He's dropped back just a little and almost then into the clutches of Florian Spengler as the cars work their way out of the first Lesmo bend. But Patrick Koyala here wants to open his GT racing account, his Lamborghini account, with a race win, and he's going the right way about it. Daniel Zampieri, though, as I say, will have to stay in really until the end of the pit window because he's quicker than Roman Mavlanov, his co-driver. They need, therefore, to maximise as much of the available time as they can out of Zampieri, who drives for the Antonelli Motorsport team. Still third is Spengler, still in fourth place behind him is Kai Francesco Cozzolino. And here they come down to the Variante Ascari for the 6th time of asking. How many more laps can they get in before the pit window opens? One more, I would suggest. It's going to open rather more beneficially for those at the back than those at the front. Glorious noise as the field swings its way out of the Variante Ascari down to the Parabolica now, with Koyala staying ahead of Zampieri. And Zampieri frustratingly hasn't been able to make a proper move, and there Niederhauser frustratingly not really being able to do much about getting back ahead of Raffaele Giannoni. He was ahead early on before he had his trip off the road, and if anything I wonder whether Niederhauser is losing more places. He comes out of the Parabolica. Has he had a drama in clattering over those curbs that's affecting his pace now, because Kelvin Snooks is through as well. Snooks gains one spot up into 9th, the Dutchman, ex-Formula Renault racer. Kelvin Snooks then attacks. They come down towards the chicane. To the outside line goes Niederhauser. They lean on each other. Niederhauser comes off worse, and now trying to join in as well is Loris Spinelli, number 15, the white car there. Spinelli right onto the back of Niederhauser as they run out of the chicane. Loris Spinelli, who's moved from AutoGP, different type of race car altogether. Now you've got drivers being warned about track limits as well. You can tell that the wick is being turned up a little bit here. Zampieri, best of anybody in Sector 1 as he tries to hunt down the race leader Patrick Koyala, but he's only taken 36 thousandths out of that lead margin, so it's hardly anything at all. Lap 7 we run, and there is 30 seconds effectively before the pit window opens. The leaders come through that incident zone where we had the crash for Pellegrinelli early on that brought out the safety car. Down they come with Zampieri inching up onto the back here of Patrick Koyala, but Patrick is doing a very good job. As I say, he's new to GT racing, but you wouldn't think it to look at him. He's come from a season or two in GP3, and he's also raced in Formula Renault 2 litre, so he knows about racing. He knows about slicks and wing single-seaters. He does not know about racing like this. Down to the Parabolica, Daniel Zampieri, quicker in Sector 1, quicker in Sector 2, hunting down the leader. The pit window is open. The gap's coming down and down and down, but Zampieri has got to stay out there for as much of the next 10 minutes as he can afford to maximise his time in that car before he gives way to Roman Mavlanov. The lead gap is 0.7 of a second as they go through. And Koyala leading, heads down to the chicane. Now, is he going to pit early and get it out of the way, or will he pit right at the very end? We have got the first of the stops, though. 96 has come down the pit lane. Raffaele Giannoni, former Ferrari Challenge racer. So he's got the stop out of the way. He now can run through to the very end of the race. Out of the first chicane, Patrick Koyala has shot off into the distance. Zampieri has lost ground there. Remember, a pit stop is 1 minute and 24. It's the best part of a lap. You've got to be at rest for a minute. The 24 is the drive time, pit in to pit out. There also in is Jay Palmer to give way to Matteo Bobbi, the 2003 FIA GT champion. That car will fly now that Matteo Bobbi has got behind the wheel of it. That is for sure. Battle on for third. Florian Spengler has been caught now by Kai Francesco Cozzolino. That battle is shaping up nicely, isn't it now? Spengler is a soloist. Cozzolino will give way to Michimi Shinya for the second stint in the race. But meanwhile, Patrick Kujala belying his lack of experience in this sort of car because he continues to lead. Lots of dust being kicked up though there, and somebody has had a moment, and he's that Zampieri who has been off the road. It is from second place, Daniel Zampieri, many people's tip for a win, has been across the gravel at the Variante Ascari. He is back on the road, but he's now down into 6th position, I would offer you. Into the Parabolica they come, 33 then, Florian Spengler keeping at bay Kai Francesco Cozzolino. This now has become the battle for second place. The leader heads up towards the timing line. Kujala goes through for another lap. Second is Spengler, third is Cozzolino. They do not yet pit. Fourth behind them is Gerhard Trofeo. Don't rule out that car. Up into 5th is Alberto Di Folco, and up into 6th is Snooks. Into the pit lane, I think, has come Zampieri after his moment. Yes, he has. So Daniel Zampieri has pitted. I'm surprised he's come in that early, because ideally you would want him to be in for as long as possible as the quicker driver, unless he had a drama which caused him to go off, like a tyre problem, in which case he may well, or a brake problem, in which case he may need to get that sorted out. But either way, they've sacrificed a race, because Mavlanov, I don't think, was going to be able to match the pace of Zampieri. So it's an intriguing decision, but it may have been forced on them by that incident caused by perhaps a very long brake pedal or something else. But let's see what happens when that car goes back into the race. Now, Patrick Kujala leads. He's been released, doesn't have to worry about the pressure from behind. Battle for second, though, is taking up all attention. Florian Spengler ahead of Kai Francesco Cozzolino. And then behind them is Gerhard Trofeo. Trofeo, we know his experience in Lamborghinis. He's raced in this, he's raced in the FIA GT Championship, he's raced in Blancpain Endurance. If he can't make a Lamborghini go quickly, nobody can. Gerhard Trofeo in the virtually all-white car runs 4th, as down the pit lane, ready to go back out. Sergio Campana having given way to Fabrizio Crestani for second place, almost side by side at the Parabolica. But once again, it is Florian Spengler who hangs on to the place. Kai Francesco Cozzolino then slots back in behind him. Italian, but with Japanese extraction in the family. He's raced in Formula Nippon, has Cozzolino, and he makes his way now up towards the timing line. He's on the tail of Spengler, but he cannot find a way past him. Florian Spengler for Benaldi Motorsport then. Cozzolino to the outside, brave stuff. Can he go right round the outside? Yes, he can. Fantastic move. Right round the outside goes Cozzolino, diving down to the first chicane, and that was very brave indeed, but great late braking that. And having made the move and having committed to the move, it wasn't scrappy, he didn't bounce over the curve, it was all beautifully controlled. And Kai Francesco Cozzolino goes through, but straight away, look, Florian Spengler is back on his case. And also Gerhard Trofeo there, he's trying to buy into it as well. Wonderful battle this. It's all going to come to an end soon, because they all have to make the pit stops. Enjoy it while it lasts. In the background, Alberto Di Folco was 5th ahead of Kelvin Snooks over the timing line. They round out the top 6 at the moment. And what happened to the Zampieri Mavlanov car? I don't think that's yet rejoined. I think it may well be a problem that caused the off, as it wasn't a very Zampieri-like moment, that. And so if they have to sort out a problem, it's going to lose a big chunk of time in the pit lane. Meanwhile, Patrick Kujala is disappearing up the road. 4.5 seconds now, the lead gap. And he's done another absolute best in Sector 1. The Conrad team hard at work, ready to cycle its 3 cars through. Franz Conrad, former German Formula 3 champion, Silk Cut Jaguar racer, team owner. He has spent so much of the last decade running Porsches, now trying a different one-make category. Now the race leader, Patrick Kujala, is going to do another lap. He's going to stay out. He's got to be careful about this, because you don't want to run too tight to the edge of the pit window. But he's gone through onto another lap nonetheless. Up into second place then now Cozzolino, ahead of Spengler, as we saw at the first chicane, and they stay out for another lap as well. Trofeo is 4th. Alberto Di Folco pits from 5th, so that enables Kelvin Snooks to go up ahead of him. Snooks across the line ahead of Loris Spinelli, who will give way to Marco Moscato at the stops. And Zampieri, 2 laps down, still in the pit lane, so clearly it was a problem, as we get the replay of Cozzolino making that move round the outside for second place. Beautifully executed that. No tar smoke, no clattering of curbs, no freneticism, just beautifully through the first chicane. And this is Daniel Zampieri still in the pit lane. And over. Forget it. If it's a long brake pedal, well, that's it. They've had a look at it. Daniel Zampieri himself peering there as well. But at the front of the car, loss of brake fluid? Question mark. But the net result is that they're going no further. And Zampieri, having been in second place, and almost to add insult to injury, Mavlanov trips over the pit equipment there as he gets out of the car. But huge frustration. Talked to people in the media centre yesterday. It was the prediction for the race win and the championship. The season starts with 0 points because that car doesn't finish and it scores nothing as 33 of Florian Spengler heads out of the chicane. And now it is a very busy road because you've got cars yet to pit, mixing it with the traffic that has made a pit stop. And the pit window is only open for another 2 minutes and 45 seconds as of now. There's one car slowly there, look, on the inside, heading for the pit lane with what looks like a problem. Just wonder whether it wasn't quite true in its tracking. Into the pit lane comes the leader. Patrick Koyala then down the pit road. Race leader. He doesn't have to get out and get back in again. He can just leave all the work, namely looking at a stopwatch, to Benaldi Motorsport. What he has to be careful of is not to go too quickly down the pit lane. He's got 24 seconds of drive time. Now Spengler and Ferraza have gone through for another lap. Cozzolino has come in as well. So Spengler picks up the race lead, but he has got Gerhard Trevaza right on his tail. Trevaza has been getting closer and closer to the front. Now he's right up there battling for the phony race lead, as it were, with Florian Spengler, because they're going to lose that position once they make their pit stops. So there is Patrick Koyala, who's lost his L in the freneticism of the first few laps of the race, but he serves the mandatory stop, just has to sit there, bide his time. The team stare at the stopwatch, and when the minute is up, then the car can be released. Vincenzo Sospiri's team cycling through Cozzolino to give way now to Michimi Shinya. Vincenzo, whose Formula One career sadly never really happened with the ill-fated Lola effort, but Vincenzo in the late 80s was a quick young Italian who came to race in the UK, had his first ever race win for the redoubtable John Village at Alton Park in Formula 4, but now running teams in AutoGP and into this series this year. Good to have Vincenzo Sospiri racing in the championship as the cars are released down the pit lane back into the race. Do not cross that white line. The race director very keen. They always say, pretend that's a barrier. If you hit a barrier, you damage your car. If you cross that line, we'll damage your race for you because it'll incur a penalty. So everybody stays the right side of it. If you see anybody's wheels stray over that white line, you know a trip to the race director is going to happen at the end of the race. So we have 20 minutes and 48 seconds to go. In other words, 48 seconds before the pit window closes, and there are still therefore one or two drivers who've yet to stop, namely the top two of Spengler and Ferraza. Good little fight here coming up over the line. Conrad Carr on the inside there, tries to gain ground. That's Adrian Amstutz, the Swiss driver. And Amstutz is alongside Matteo Bobby, but Bobby on the outside has the bigger whatnots, and so he can afford to brake much, much later and then get it all wrong. Too much speed into the corner, and a big, big lose is the net result going into the chicane. 33 in the pit lane, Florian Spengler. So he did take the race lead as everybody else cycled through, and he comes, and concerned there about a brake fire as the extinguisher arrives. It's a busy old race. We've still got 20 minutes to go. So the pit window is now closed. If you are serving your stop, that's okay. If you've not yet come in, then you're in real strife. And I think, yes, everybody has been in, but that brake fire is a real concern for Florian Spengler. So at the end of this next lap, we'll start to get the true order cycle back through. Remember, before the pit stops, it was Patrick Koyala leading by a healthy margin. He was over 4.5 seconds up the road. Spengler back into the race. There in traffic, you've got the car of Michimi Shinya, and he pitted on a different lap from Patrick Koyala. But who's going to come out in front out of these two as they come over the timing line? It is somehow 16 ahead. So over the line they go in the new order. Shinya Michima is ahead. Also, you've got now the cars leaving the pit lane. Spengler goes back out, Trevaza goes back out. Koyala retakes his race lead into the first chicane. But how did he lose it? Bearing in mind he was 4.5 seconds up the road. Either they were overly cautious in the pits, or, and here's the answer, there's a stop-go penalty going to number 16, The Sospiri car of Shinya and Cozzolino is going to get an 8-second stop-go penalty. It must have been too short a pit stop by 8 seconds. So car number 16 gets an 8-second stop-go. There it is. And also number 78, Shota Abkazava, is going to get an 8-second stop-and-go penalty as well. So that's how he lost the lead. It wasn't a bad pit stop from Koyala and Bonaldi. It was the other teams that were under the 1 minute 24 pit stop time, and you have to make up the difference by a stop-go penalty of that time. So another team getting it wrong, put their car into the lead. It's been rectified anyway because Koyala overtook, but number 16 is going to have to come in. Michimi Shinya at the wheel of it now, having taken over from Kai Francesco Cozzolino. So number 16 is going to have to make a pit stop, and so the race order will change yet again. And there's a car with a puncture, and that is the Japanese car. That is Shinya Michima. So not only does he have a stop-go, he's got a punctured tyre to add to his woes as well. When it's not your day, it's not your day. And that, I suspect, by the time he's limped it back and they've got that changed and he served the stop-go, they might as well knock today on the head and go to the Lamborghini Blancpain hospitality. Drown their sorrows. Somebody else in strife with a spin rejoining there. Look, you can see is the Gallardo in the hands now of Juan Carlos Azcarate, the Venezuelan former kart racer. Venezuela writ large on the front of the car. So Azcarate has taken over from Davide Durante. He's had one spin and he's off the road at the next corner. Rattles out way wide over the curb. Meantime, Shinya Michima limping the car back. And everything is being rattled around. Components, fillings of your teeth, the whole works. And that's not doing it a whole lot of good, I wouldn't have thought. Is that his first lap out? I think it is, isn't it? He's only just, sorry, second lap of the race. He's only just got into the race and it's all gone wrong for him. Desperately so. Meantime, back at the front, Patrick Koyala leads from 33 Florian Spengler now. And there's another stop-go penalty coming for number 34, which is Andros Josefsson. He's got a 1 second stop-and-go penalty for too short a pit stop. Rules are rules, so a 1 second stop-go. It was at Navarra a few years ago in the Lamborghini Trofeo that somebody had a 0.3 of a second stop-go, which was virtually impossible to police, that he stalled it anyway. It didn't really matter. That is Michima, who first of all has to serve the stop-go and then limp his way down the pit lane. Forget their race, it's all unravelled, it's over completely. So Patrick Koyala leads. We've got 16 minutes of the race remaining. We've had tyre issues in the past. Silverstone a couple of years ago was a race that was affected by them. Only one car though with that, and if you have got people running wide and bringing gravel and muck onto the circuit, it is understandable that people can run over that and then pick up these punctured tyres. Also sharp concrete, but serrated curbs here as well can do that. If you're a bit curb happy, that will do the tyres no good as well. So it's a combination of all of these factors. You've seen Michima get to the pit lane now. Tyre change takes place, but he's going to lose another lap in all of that. Right, leaders go through. Koyala leading Spengler, leading now Crestani, because up into third place has come 26 Fabrizio Crestani. Fourth is Alberto Di Folco. Fifth is now in number 4 Manuel Flaminio, having taken over from Gerhard Travasa. And in 6th place, it is Alberto Cecchi, having taken over from Giacomo Bari. So the order looking very, very different indeed. And there are still battles to be resolved. Koyala is 5.9 seconds up the road over Spengler, but Spengler to Crestani is a great little battle. You can see how close they are. There's a 1/10 of a second between them as they work their way out of the chicane. Fabrizio Crestani, last seen in GP2. Very quick Italian single-seater racer. There he is on the back of Florian Spengler now. Spengler from Minis, from the German GT Championship, hanging onto that place. But the way that Crestani is going suggests that he's going to be second by the very end. Now, what's happening behind them? Alberto Di Folco is 4th, but not lapping as quickly. So I think at the pointy end of the grid, it really is between these two now. Down they come, heading into the Variante Ascari. There is Sergio Crestani hunting down the man ahead of him, Florian Spengler. And meanwhile, Patrick Koyala just continues to drive off into the distance up the road. Now, car number 16 still being told, this is Michimi Shinya, about his stop-go penalty, so I think they've done the tar stop and then have to come back in and serve that as the second place battle turns its way through the Parabolica. Crestani losing a couple of lengths there. Koyala goes over the timing line, clear in the race lead. By how much? Let's see, because now second, now third come through. He leads by 6 seconds, but it's only a fifth of a second between second and third as they come over the line. Crestani pulls out of the draft, has a long look, doesn't commit to that. Slots back in again as they head into the chicane. What he wants to do is apply pressure to Spengler and try and force a mistake out of him. Florian, no relation to Bruno Spengler of DTM fame, incidentally, hangs on to the place. Next pair over the line. On the outside there is 15, which is Marco Moscato. On the inside line, it is Adrian Amstutz, and Moscato gains the place. He goes up into 9th under braking and also gets himself onto the back of Mikko Eskilinen. Look, in the silver car. The Leipert Motorsport car and Mikko Eskilinen, the Mad Croc entry, right up there at the head of this little battle. 33 goes through. In traffic, Spengler has right on his tail Sergio Crestani, who is coming back at him with just under 13 minutes of this race to go. Traffic keeps out of the way. Through goes Spengler. And Crestani not close enough there. He's dropped back over the last couple of corners. What he doesn't want to do is get stuck behind a back marker going into the Val di Ascari. He gets through on the inside. Yes, job done. 12 minutes of the race remain. 50-minute race it is, not a set number of laps. Usual format for a timed race. Flag goes out first time the leader crosses the line once the time has elapsed. A superb noise as the cars howl past the camera there. Down towards the Variante Ascari. Mikko Eskilinen turns through, but he's going to be caught before long. There are quicker pro drivers hunting him down. Calvin Snooks, having done a good job in the opening stint, as here for second place, coming up over the timing line together. Once more, Crestani is in the wheel tracks of Spengler. He's going to have a look to the outside line, is he? Yes. Now, can he be really brave and commit and go right round the outside? Bang! Right into the side of Spengler. Well, he makes the move. He does go second. Can he hang on to it coming out of the corner? Yes, he can, but wasn't that subtle, was it? There was a real old biff there, heading into the braking zone. Sergio Crestani didn't need to do that. I mean, it wasn't as if he had to turn in at that point, but he moved across, clattered into the side of Florian Spengler. That was a discernible biff. So he's managed to take second place, but in rather robust fashion. So it may be that he also is called before officialdom post-race. Let's have another look at this. They're side by side. He's not running out of room. Bang. Maybe you could say that Spengler was starting to drift across onto his line and they met in the middle, but even so, it's conceivable that Crestani could have given him a bit more racing room, and a driving standards flag is being given to Crestani as a consequence of that. The right decision. I think it could well be agreed. So for his robust driving, that's the situation. Up front, Koyala, Spengler, Crestani was the order at the start of the lap. It is now Crestani second, but on screen you can see how we stand in Pro-Am, with Flaminio at the moment leading that class ahead of Mikko Eskilinen. And then you've got Marco Mascati in third, in number 15, having taken over from Loris Spinelli. So we've got the cars up to the end of lap 17. There is the driving standards flag and the number on the board for Sergio Crestani. And the black and white driving standards flag means your driving is being observed by race control. Behave yourself, wind your neck in a bit, stop being quite so zealous about this. So there's no penalty, he doesn't have to pit, he doesn't have to drop out of the race, but it is a yellow card, if you like. Any more of that behaviour and further action, more serious action, will take place. There's one off the road there in the gravel, trying to rejoin. That's over at the Lesmos, which has been catching out people all day, whether it's been in Lamborghini or Blancpain or Formula Renault. So from Crestani's point of view, he is able to continue in the race. There, still going, albeit a long way back now, is Michimi Shinya after his stop-go and his pit stop for a new tyre. 25th, that car is, having been up at the pointy end early on. The Conrad car, just at the head of this little gaggle, is that of Amir Klenzia, the Romanian, who gets it wrong and runs wide, but doesn't lose a place because Michimi Shinya is so far down the order, he is on a different lap completely. In fact, he is 3 laps down. And now we have a report that Cedric Lima has slowed right down. It was him that had been off the road, and I would suspect a punctured tyre might be something to do with this, as he limps his way back to the pit lane. So Cedric Lima, 2012 champion, slow to the pits there. Anders Josefsson versus versus Patrick Niederhauser's car, now with Edoardo Liberati at the wheel. Different laps, different classes. Liberati is 7th, whereas Josefsson is in the Gallardo class, second in that class now behind Andrea Palmer. So Edoardo Liberati puts 1 lap on the slower car. Out of the Lesmos and over the curb, rattles number 11, Marky Nyken. And he is the man leading in Pro-Am. Marky Nyken, who has come with the Conrad team, new into the championship this year. Behind him, second in Pro-Am, is his teammate, Amir Krenzia. As the cars turn their way down through the chicane. So 7.5 minutes still on the clock. As I'll tell you a lie, it is still Trevaza and co-driver Flaminio heading the Pro-Am category, but Marky Nyken is getting himself up there. And another car that's worth keeping an eye to lower down the order is number 8, that Günther Blieninger started and was the man from the very last rank on the grid. Milos Pavlovic has taken it over and has kicked it up into 12th spot now. The Gallardo class being headed by Ascarati now, having taken over from Durante ahead of Karina Lima's car that she shares with Andrea Palmer. Andreas Josefsson 3rd in class. 6 3/4 minutes of the race to go. But Patrick Kujala continues to dominate up front, now with 8.3 seconds in hand. Sergio Crestani doing his best to reduce that deficit, but he just cannot match the lap times, so the gap is not really coming down at all. And then 3rd is Florian Spengler, in 4th place Alberto Di Folco, 5th is Alberto Cecchi, and 6th now Edoardo Liberati. But Patrick Kujala looks like he's going to, barring a disaster, open his account in Lamborghini racing in fine style here. Race leaders turning for the 20th time through the first sector. Looking back down at the Parabolica, number 15 goes through, which is the Marco Moscato driven car of Antonelli Motorsport. Moscato currently in 11th place. Another man to keep an eye to up the order, Matteo Bobbi, up into 7th overall now, charging on, having taken over from Jay Palmer. 5 3/4 minutes of the race remain. And Patrick Kujala with just under 9 seconds worth of an advantage. There is Mikko Eskilinen in 9th spot. Now, is he going to be caught before the end? He possibly is, because charging on behind him is Marco Moscato. Eskilinen drove in this championship last year, has got quicker and quicker, certainly. But he might yet be caught. Just up ahead of Eskilinen, you can see, is Adrian Amstutz, who's certainly not short on track time as a regular in the 24-hour series, indeed Dubai 24-hour winner. And the Snooks liveried Mad Croc car and Mikko Eskilinen out of the chicane. And the clock continues to tick away here. Cedric Lima has just rejoined after a pit stop to put a new tyre on. There's the leader, Patrick Kujala, working his way up towards the line. And such is the advantage he's got. He doesn't have to stress anything now. He's under no pressure. He can just look after the machinery, bring it home. 4.5 minutes, give or take, still to go. Time for 3 more laps. And last time around it was 9 seconds, the advantage that he had. The order you can see on the screen as it scrolls through. So Kujala to Crestani, it is up front with Florian Spengler falling away now in 3rd place. Now, could Spengler be caught before the end by Alberto Di Folco? No, he can't, because the gap is 5.5 seconds and Di Folco anyway is lapping slower, so that's not going to change. What might happen though is Edoardo Liberati versus Alberto Cecchi for 5th and 6th, because the gap has come down by 1.5 seconds and there's only 1.9 between them, so 5th and 6th could change before the very end. 13 is Jürgen Krebs. That marker, 88, is the Andrea Palmer-driven Gallardo, which again is quite a long way down, given it's the older car, 21st overall, but second in class. And for those drivers, it's class points that they're after, and straight on goes Edoardo Liberati. So just as he was hunting down Alberto Cerqui, he's managed to put ink all over his copybook, I'm afraid, by going off the road, up the escape road, gets back on. In fairness, Patrick Niederhauser did the same thing at the same place in his stint earlier on. So they're on as even in that respect. Into the pit lane has also just come Trevasa's car, driven by Manuel Flaminio, and that was leading Pro-Am. So the early Pro-Am leader has just pitted, not for a scheduled stop. There's a problem then for car number 4 in the pit lane. So the clock has just under 3 more minutes left on it. Patrick Koyala leading by 9.3 seconds last time. He's gone through now. He'll get this lap and one more out of the race, I would predict. So Koyala leading the way. Crestani is a bit nearer, gap down to 8.8 seconds, but he's not going to get close enough to attack. And then in third place, Florian Spengler, still keeping clear by this increasing margin over Alberto Di Folco. It's perhaps not as close as some of the Super Trofeo races that we've had, and I just wonder whether, with it being a new car, 1 or 2 teams still need to do a few tweaks for race 2 just to get totally on top of a new beast. But even so, it's been a very impressive debut by Patrick Koyala, and don't forget the team for whom he drives, Bonaldi Motorsport, has been one of the top teams in this championship for a long, long time. It might be a different car, but the Lamborghini engineering experience put into it to good use. Crestani there, second, comes through the second chicane, and 8.8 seconds he is now adrift of Patrick Koyala. .33, Florian Spengler still third, and off the road there, I'm afraid, out of the Pro-Am battle has gone Juan Carlos Carati from the Gallardo class. Now, has he been able to hang on to the lead? Andrea Palmer was half a minute back, so I think he should have hung on to the class lead, but just when you can ill afford it, a mistake. Class leader spins off the road, back onto the circuit, then goes as Carati. But the lead that he had of over half a minute will be much diminished. Patrick Koyala, meantime, continues to lead. There's a minute of the race to go as Koyala comes through. Onto lap 23, onto his last lap of the race. He goes by and accelerates off down now towards the first chicane, but under absolutely no pressure. The gap has gone up again as well. Admittedly, some of this is down to traffic and where you catch a slower car. But Patrick Koyala looking very strong indeed here, and has thrown down a marker to the opposition. His single-seater history may not have been sparkling. Lessons learned, put to good use in a GT car. And clearly, having seen drivers move from this into an international GT championship, he's got his eyes on doing the same and try and prove that GT racing is where he ought to be. And increasingly, drivers see that as a career rather than spending millions, perhaps not to get to Formula One. You can spend less, earn money as you go along, and have a very nice life as a professional racing driver in sports cars, whether it's GTs or prototypes. And Patrick Koyala looks like he's going to be the next to add himself to that list. The Finn leading the way. Sets off then down towards the Variante Ascari for the last time. Pro-Am honours still going the way of Matteo Bobbi and Jay Palmer, going strongly, and Marky Nyken being the true Am leader, as down now into the Parabolica for the last time comes the leader. Drama at the chicane though there, because Anders Josefsson is off the road, and so too is Marco Moscato. Drama on the last lap. Victory though in the first round of the championship to Patrick Koyala. He's new to Lamborghini racing and he scores victory first time out. A very impressive drive indeed. He slowed right down at the flag, but even so he wins by 10 seconds from Fabrizio Crestani, I should say, and Sergio Campana, who come through to take second. And then for third place, Florian Spengler it is for third, with Alberto Di Folco fourth. Alberto Cerqui and Giacomo Barri should be fifth, they are. And then in sixth place, after a couple of offs, Eduardo Liberati and Patrick Niederhauser. Now seventh will be the Pro-Am winners, will it not? Matteo Bobbi and the Brit Jay Palmer. Indeed, that is the case. So Matteo Bobbi hauls the car up the order, does a longer second stint. Plan works out perfectly because the slower driver loses little time under the safety car, and Matteo Bobbi brings the car home for 7th overall, but significantly a class win. 8th goes the way of Adrian Amstutz, 2nd Pro-Am, 9th, 3rd Pro-Am, Mikko Eskillen and Calvin Snooks, and then 10th overall from the very back of the grid, Günther Blieninger and Milos Pavlovic, also 4th in Pro-Am. And that last lap incident between Moscato and Josefsson is under investigation, as here Martin Eichen opens his Lamborghini account with a class win, and Franz Conrad opens his Lamborghini account as a team owner with a class victory as well. So an impressive debut in Lamborghini racing for Franz Conrad, and a very impressive debut also for Patrick Kujala, who comes home as the race winner. So the classes: Pro to be won by Kujala, Pro-Am by Matteo Bobbi and Jay Palmer, and then the AMs won, as you just seen, by Martin Eichen. And the AMs in the Gallardos, well, because of the dramas towards the end, it was Andrea Palmer and Carina Lima that scored the victory, and spinning down to second place right at the very end, Davide Durante, but Juan Caio Azcarate was the man that committed the indiscretion, effectively throwing away all of Davide Durante's hard work. It can happen in two-driver races, but you've got to have a very understanding co-driver to let you off having done something like that. So the winning cars will head to the pit lane. We will then get the drivers up onto the podium. And the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo opening race of the season has given lots of drama right from the word go. An accident at the start, bringing out the safety car. An accident at the very end on the last lap, bringing out the yellow flags, and very nearly a blocked road. And that was what it was all about. Very spectacular stuff indeed, as getting airborne was Marco Moscato, coming up to lap Anders Josefsson, who either wasn't aware that he was there, or Moscato was being a bit keen perhaps in trying to get past through the chicane. But the net result is that neither of them finish, and there are two more damaged cars to sort out overnight. So the victors are at the foot of the race control building. They will make their way up towards the podium very shortly. So you've got there Fabrizio Crestani and Sergio Campana's car. Now you've got Patrick Kujala arriving, and we should have Florian Spengler as third in the pro class as well. A totally different look to the championship then, not only in terms of the car but also the drivers, because so many from the front have moved on from last year into either the Blancpain Endurance Series or into different forms of racing. So some new names to the front, and Patrick Kujala is a very happy first-time race winner. When OJ Borg tried to talk to him on the grid, he was, in true Finnish style, a man of few words. He might open up a bit more now he's had a race victory and there's more to celebrate. He doesn't have to be quite so focused now. But the drivers then congratulated by their engineers, and then they shall make their way up to the podium very shortly. In the end, nearly 10.5 seconds was Patrick Kujala's winning margin, and bravissimo indeed, because it was a tremendous drive, that. So up they go, encouraged by the officials to make their way towards the podium. And Patrick Kujala, I think, has escaped, but if we can grab a word, then we shall try to. But the organisers barking the word podium at the drivers to try them to get up there, because they don't want to delay things too much. So we are going to have the drivers whisked away pretty swiftly. And also, from the race organisers' point of view, they want to clear the track before the next session, which is for the Blancpain Endurance Series. But there are 1 or 2 cars to retrieve from around the lap prior to that. The GT pre-qualifying session is coming up shortly. A look at the results. Patrick Kujala, the race winner, ahead of Sergio Campana and Fabrizio Crestani, with Florian Spengler third, Alberto Di Folco fourth, ahead of Alberto Cecchi and Giacomo Barri. Then it is Eduardo Liberati and Patrick Niederhauser from Jay Palmer and Matteo Bobbi. Eighth goes the way of Adrian Amstutz, ahead of Mikko Eskilinen and Kelvin Snooks. Gunter Blieninger and Milos Pavlovic from the back of the grid take 10th, ahead of Mark Inaiken, the AM winner, and Shota Abkozava 12th, second in that AM category. 13th goes the way of another of the AM class cars, Siegfried Van Ema and Michael Schaal, ahead of Amir Krenzia, the Romanian. And then, not getting to the flag, I'm afraid, Spinelli and Moscato off on that last lap. At least Jürgen Krebs did get to the end, so too did Giannone, although he was well placed early on and lost time en route. But there are plenty of them with dramas along the way, like Ollie Ray, who pitted and didn't restart, and the same true Daniel Zampieri, Cedric Lima, a long way back after his puncture and pit stop as well. Well, that is a rather sorry-looking car, but let's have a look at some of the highlights of round one of the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo. Daniel Zampieri had to defend for all he was worth initially, and then round the outside got second place and also nearly got the lead heading into the first chicane. Behind him, the pack wriggled through, but exiting the second Lesmo, cars ran wide, one slowed, Pellegrinelli had nowhere to go, clipped the back of Kelvin Snooks and ploughed off into the barrier, did a lot of damage, ripped the front of the car apart, ended up in the middle of the road, and that brought out the safety car. It took a few laps to get everything cleared up, and then we could go back to racing once more with Patrick Kujala in command once more. Daniel Zampieri stayed with him. At certain parts of the lap, the gap came down. At others, the gap opened up, and it looked as though he was going to be good to make a move for the race lead, but it was never quite to be, and ultimately Zampieri went off the road heading into the second chicane, pitted and went no further. Big disappointment. Championship favourites see points go begging. That meant that Florian Spengler was busy battling with Kai Francesco Cozzolino, with Gerhard Trevalza running behind them. A great move by Cozzolino, put him up into second place, round the outside, going into the first chicane. Spengler tried to fight back, but couldn't really do anything about it, and Trevalza ran shotgun. After the pit stops, though, Trevalza's car given over to Manuel Flaminio would have problems and fall down the order. Carina Lima lost her AM class lead, as up on the inside went Davide Doranti to take away the place. Kujala pitted, and we had a spin for Cedric Lima. It wouldn't be his only drama of the race as well, because he would go off and then have a puncture later in the stint. Florian Spengler, who would ultimately finish in third place, had a brake fire during the pit stops, quickly attended to by the marshals, and after some great battling out on track, Kujala took the place back, the race lead, away from Shinya Michima, who was then given an 8-second stop-go penalty for too short a pit stop. Fabrizio Crestani was being pretty brutal as he clattered into the side of the car of Florian Spengler on his way to taking second place. But while all that was going on, there was no stopping Patrick Kujala, who was well clear up front and continued to pull away, as on the last lap Marco Moscato tripped over Anders Josefsson and put both cars out of the race, almost within sight of the checkered flag. So that enabled Patrick Kujala to come through to score a first victory in a Lamborghini, and he did so in style after a very impressive drive. So the drivers now making their way up towards the podium, with a very happy winner across 4 different categories. You've got the winner of the Gallardo class, you've got the AM winner, the Pro-Am winner, and the Pro class as well. And all of those drivers' efforts are going to be recognised once they get up to the podium. Below is a perfect backdrop for a GT-style podium, because there is a pit lane of getting on for 60 GT cars being made ready for a pre-qualifying session. But in a moment, the drivers will venture out for the first of the podium ceremonies, a class at a time. But there's a little bit of rounding up of drivers, I think, still to do. This was how Pro-Am finished, with Matteo Bobbi and Jay Palmer taking the class win ahead of Adrian Amstutz, Mikko Eskilinen and Kelvin Snooks coming through ahead of Gunter Blieninger and Milos Pavlovic. Marco Moscato and Loris Spinelli classified, despite not taking the flag, ahead of Raffaele Giannone. And then Kai Francesco Cozzolino and Michima Shinya, after their dramas, ending up 7th in class. course, with this being the opening round, where you finish is how you are in the championship situation. As normal, the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo will support the Blancpain Endurance Series, starting this weekend at Monza, where the Super Gallardo Championship class won by Carina Lima and Andrea Palmer, ahead of Juan Carlos Carati and Davide Durante, Andres Josefsson third. But the last round of the championship will be in Sebring in America as part of the Lamborghini World Finals weekend, which has had a visit to Italy as part of its European base. Then it went to Asia last year, and then it will move to America at the end of this season. Another chance to have a look at the Pro-Am classification. Confirmation that Matteo Bobbi and Jay Palmer, the class winners, have this 3-point advantage now over Adrian Amstutz. But the Pro Cup looks like this, with Patrick Koyala having taken victory ahead of Sergio Campana and Fabrizio Crestani. Florian Spengler third from Alberto Di Folco, with Giacomo Bari and Alberto Cecchi fifth ahead of Eduardo Liberati. Patrick Niederhauser with then the next to the pros, I think I'm right in saying, not even getting to the checkered flag, because what you've got there are the winning Pro-Am drivers creeping in at the bottom of that classification. So Patrick Koyala makes his way to the top step. For second place, you have Sergio Campana and Fabrizio Crestani. And then for third, Florian Spengler. At the top step for Patrick Koyala. So a Finnish driver for an Italian team. Patrick Koyala is the winner here at Monza by 10 seconds in the end, was that winning margin. And a very happy man he is, hopefully. He might be a bit more loquacious now, given that the pressure is off. He's proved what he can do in a car, in GT racing terms. And so the trophies, the traditional bronze, then silver, then gold trophies come to be presented to the drivers by Stefan Winkelmann. So it's Florian Spengler who gets his, first of all, the bronze trophy, the silver trophy for second place to Crestani and Campana, and then it's going to be, of course, the gold trophy for Patrick Koyala, who will be a very, very, very happy race winner. There it is. And Patrick Koyala scores the win, and there's yet no champagne, I don't think, for him to spray, but one more race tomorrow. There is, of course, also the Blancpain clock to the race winner, and that will take pride of place on Patrick's office wall. Blancpain energetic supporters of GT racing with this, and of course the Blancpain Endurance Series, which it supports. And then there's also the Pirelli trophy that goes the way of Patrick Koyala. So if you have a good weekend in this series, you by no means go away empty-handed. So a busy podium with the drivers, with the trophies, with lots of photographers and TV crews and the presenters there as well. And of course the champagne is now sprayed. The podium then quickly has to be made ready for the Pro-Ams. And Campana and Crestani know that tomorrow there's a bit of work to do to try and peg back the pace of Patrick Koyala after a very impressive opening to his weekend. Now, let's see if Patrick Koyala is going to be a little bit keener to talk than he was pre-race. OJ Borg caught up with the winner.
So, Patrick, I tried to chat to you before the race. You were very focused, sat there ready to go. You now have champagne on you. You have a trophy, first place. A great win for you.
Yes.
Still a man of few words. So talk me through, it was 10 seconds in the end, a comfortable win.
Yeah, it was. It looked comfortable, but it was quite hard maintaining the brakes and the tires, and to keep a nice constant rhythm throughout the race. So it might look easy, but it was quite hard.
And that's just the first round. Are you confident going into the rest of this season?
Of course.
I take it we'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Your winner, Patrick Koyala.
Thank you.
and a very, very impressive drive. Typical Finn in the Raikkonen mould rather than in the sort of jolly Valtteri Bottas mode. But anyway, Patrick Koyala, I think the more he's perhaps brought into this type of racing, where there is a good off-track element, he might be a little bit more talkative. But full marks to OJ Borg for persevering and trying to get as much as he could out of our race winner. So the podium now will be made ready for the Pro-Am victors to make their way up there. And this is how Pro-Am looked, with Palmer and Bobby. Jay Palmer, the Brit, Matteo Bobby, the former FIA GT champion, the winners, ahead of Adrian Amstutz, and then Mikko Eskelinen sharing with Kelvin Snooks third, ahead of Gunter Blieninger and Milos Pavlovic. And then this damaged car on the last lap of Loris Spinelli and Marco Moscato taking fifth ahead of Raffaele Giannone. After the stop-go and the puncture, Shinya and Cozzolino coming home seventh in class. So Kelvin Snooks and Mikko Eskelinen are on the podium. So also now Adrian Amstutz, and the top step going the way of Jay Palmer and Matteo Bobby. So it's another car run by Bonaldi Motorsport. So just as the Pro class was won by Bonaldi, so is Pro-Am. And the drivers then on the podium receive their trophies, the bronze trophies there to Kelvin Snooks, new to Lamborghini Racing, and the distinctive frame of Mad Croc's Mikko Eskelinen. Then for his second place, there is Adrian Amstutz, another newcomer to Lamborghini Racing, and then the category winners, Matteo Bobby and Jay Palmer, who returned after quite a few years away in British GT a few seasons back, and struggled a bit really to get himself race fit, as it were, but certainly has a good debut in Lamborghini Racing, which is perhaps the right place for a quick AM to be these days. Domestic GT championships are moving on apace, aren't they? So, trophies presented, and everyone huddles together for photographs. And with honours going to Jay Palmer and Matteo Bobby. For them, a very good start to the 2015 Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo season. There is the podium, resplendent with its Lamborghini signage, and the champagne is about to be sprayed laconically by Mikko Eskelinen. There's not a huge amount of commitment in that. Wants to make sure he saves enough for himself to have a good swing. Mikko Eskelinen last year was in the Pro-Am class a driver that was getting better and better. I think this year he's already shown that he's taken another step forward. So lessons learnt and put to good use. It's one of the plus points of being in Pro-Am. If you have a quick co-driver who can work with you as a driver coach, it can move you forward. So 2 classes gone, 2 to go, because we have the AMs as well, won by Martin Eichen from Shota Abkazava, and then third in the class, the shared car of Siegfried Van Ema and Michael Schal. Martin Eichen, somebody who comes from a good racing background. His father, Rolf, is a regular class winner in the AM category, it must be said, Class B of the Carrera Cup Deutschland. And what a margin, 21 seconds over the Georgian driver, Shota Abkazava, who runs race teams, owns circuits, races himself in a variety of categories. He's raced in Formula 3, raced in Legends. But what he can't do today is come home and conquer class winner Martin Eichen. So a very brief national anthem for Martin Eichen as he, for Conrad, takes a class win. And in a moment the trophies will be brought forward. But Martin Eichen is somebody who's taken part in the Swiss Porsche Series, the club level championship. He's raced with Conrad in 24-hour series races, but now stepping up to a much more high profile championship. Right, what's going on with the trophies? Yes, now they go to the drivers. So for third place, the trophies to Siegfried Van Ema and Michael Schal. Then the trophies for second place will go to Shota Abkazava, who's becoming a regular now in this championship, and a class win for Martin Eichen. handshakes all round. Congratulations to the class winner. And happy drivers on the podium. There's the Pirelli trophy as well to go to the victors. And everyone huddles together for photographs on the podium. And there's also, of course, the Gallardo class, which will be won by Andrea Palmer and Carina Lima. But the AMs from the Huracan element, the new car, the new Lamborghini Huracan, they leave the podium. Trophies, champagne, you name it. And the drivers vacate the podium. How different the podium in terms of the drivers up there will look for round 2 tomorrow afternoon remains to be seen. And finally, the AMs in the Gallardos, Carina Lima and Andrea Palmer, the winners, ahead of Davide Doranti and co-driver Juan Carlos Carati. Anders Josefsson shown as being third, even though the car didn't get to the end because it was involved in that bit of contact on the last lap with Marco Moscato. So as the Blancpain Endurance Series field pours its way out on track, wonderful noise to echo the podium ceremony. The winning Gallardo drivers hopefully will be there. But as yet, they are nowhere to be found. One driver emerges. So we need, that's Anders Josefsson, who's third. We need then a second place team, which will be Davide Doranti and Juan Carlos Carati, and we need a winner as well, or winners, namely Carina Lima and Andrea Palmer, who's always been very quick in these cars as a pro, now in the AM class helping Carina Lima to a maiden victory. So the drivers celebrate, trophies will be presented, and a very good start to the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo season with some good dicing all the way through the field, through the classes. As Anders Josefsson, despite his damage at the end, gets his trophy for third. The silver trophies for second, going the way of Juan Carlos Carati and a rather frustrated, I suspect, Davide Doranti. And then the winners, Carina Lima and Andrea Palmer. Carina Lima, who has had occasional races in this championship, never a full season, but certainly a maiden victory. And the drivers, trophies in the air, celebrating at the end of round 1 of the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo. So as the drivers pose for photographs, whether they're going to spray the champagne or save it for the party tonight, we'll have to wait and see. But honours in the Gallardo class to Andrea Palmer and Carina Lima in the opening round of the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo here at Monza. And we have round 2 of the championship to look forward to tomorrow. The cars will be on track at 11:30 local time. More great racing to come from the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo tomorrow. For now, from OJ Borg in the pits and David Addison, thanks for your company. We'll see you for round 2 tomorrow morning. Bye for now.